Hi everyone, Victor is here. So today is another session of sketching in my Sakura sketchbook. It has this nice embossed brand logo of Sakura flower with 5 petals and stamens. It's written Sakura. It's a nice sketchbook. I started it 2 years ago. In September 2020, it took quite a long me to fill it, and it's still not finished. So here I sketched a church in old town of Bucharest. I used a pen and some washes of watercolor. Today I'll use a Duke fountain pen. It's a bent nib or Fude Nib fountain pen. It has this bent nib. It seems like it's broken, but it's normal to be like this. This bent nib allows to draw very varied lines. This nib is versatile. You can draw very thin and very thick lines. It's got this refillable piston. It has inside a cylinder that moves when you shake it to make more homogeneous the ink. Even though it's quite heavy, it's well built and has a solid body. Now let's refill this pen with ink that is designed with fountain pens, Noodlers ink. I purchased it from United States, and it says that is waterproof, but you need to wait a bit longer to dry, because if you apply immediately watercolor, it will react with water. I used to use disposable pens, but I decided to switch to fountain pens because it's a more economical solution to refill it. The fountain pen is affordable, also the ink is very cheap, so it's more sustainable, and I think fountain pens produce more expressive line, and you can do more variation in expressing the drawing. When rotating the knob of the piston, it should be done slowly, because if you rotate quickly, the vacuum created in the piston will not suck enough ink. Then wiping off the excess of ink, because it stains quite heavily. Let's find a reference photo for today's sketch. This is an old house in Armenian Quarter in the downtown of Bucharest. It's not so well preserved, but it's got some architectural details, and there are interesting shapes that can be drawn. When I take photos, I try to capture the subject in an angle or point of view that allows drawing the perspective later. I avoid photographing houses in the front or in lateral. Usually I try to capture a corner of the house to have two vanishing points The vanishing points for this house are outside of the page. When drawing from a reference photo that has the same size as the sketch, it's much easier. As the ratio is 1:1, it's very easy to figure out the proportions. I started with the rooftop because the rooftop is the darkest part, so it contrasts. The horizon line or the eye level is somewhere at the lowest quarter of the building's height. The vanishing points being outside of the page, I don't draw the guiding lines, and my method of drawing is to compare the angles of the subject with the angles on my page. Now I'm drawing the largest shapes, not worrying about the details. In this initial stage, I'm trying to figure out the main features of the building. The building has 2 floors, and the separation between them can be seen on the outside with that middle way separation belt, and it has a thicker line because also it's a shadow underneath. I'm switching between thick and thin lines by rotating the pen. It's so easy. With thick lines, I'm indicating important or more contrasting elements or shadowy parts. With the thin line, I'm delimiting less contrasting elements. Compared with other fountain pens that I bought in the past from stationery stores, this is a very good quality pen. The ink flows easily, it glides very well on paper. It didn't clog or dry up, even though I didn't use it for longer times. Even though it's not good for the building, I like the texture beneath the crackles. Drawing the windows now, once the main structure was established, is easier part. Now it's time for details and adding other elements of the building. I'm trying to simplify decorative patterns because they are quite far away and not very distinguished. Also on this small format as this sketchbook format of A5, it's more suitable for simplifying because there is not enough space to develop all the details. This neighborhood of Bucharest is an old and original neighborhood. It's one of the most beautiful areas of the old town of Bucharest. And in this area, the Armenians lived, a numerous community in Bucharest in the 16th century. Today is a smaller one. There is also Armenian church in that area, It's very little traffic, so it's very comfortable to get by as a pedestrian. There are many old buildings with a newer Romanian architecture. Unfortunately, most of them are not renovated and are derelict. The Armenian church is a historical monument. It's built in a traditional Armenian style in the beginning of 20th century, but is carefully preserved, adding squiggly random lines to represent the degraded facade of the house. It's an organic shape. When I was little, as I remember, we weren't allowed to draw with pens, only with hard, medium, hard pencils. So this drawing with pen is like a liberation from the past rules that were imposed in the childhood. Sketching in a free way, creating a loose sketch. I am not trying to hatch in a parallel lines. Now hatching with the thick part of the pen is very effective to cover up a large surface and to block in such solid color to represent shadow. I try to leave some white stripes deliberately to add interest to the shadow part, because it's not pitch black. There are some details that can be seen, not so well, but it's just a guess and can be interpreted in many ways. When the main subject is a house, the adjacent trees are not necessarily to be drawn in a realistic way, so I'm taking the liberty to draw an abstract random shape, just representing that there are some branches over the house. The other day I was wondering why I don't like straight lines, and also I don't like using a ruler in my drawings. And I recalled the Austrian artist Hundertwasser. He had a kind of philosophy around his work. He had a very free spirit, and he represented the things in a very organic way. He had an entire theory in while he said that the straight line was something that alienated man, and that the straight line that was basically in architecture was one of the things that most damaged the soul. So he painted everything in a very fluid way, very organic. This artist said that people actually have three skins. The first one is our body, the second one is clothing, and the third one is architecture. So he had a series of proposals to transform his city, making some modifications and proposals to the city, transforming straight lines to make them more organic. I saw a couple of his architectural works in Vienna, and they are indeed very beautiful. They look as if they come from a fairy tale. This is the quick sketch for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.